Hey gang, this is Deke McClellan. Welcome to Deke's Techniques. This week I have a special one for you. We're going to create Indiana Jones type, where the characters are all warped and the gradient is warped inside the characters. Really fun stuff. Now, you'll need two fonts to follow along with me. They're both free. Go ahead and Google search SF Fedora and SF Movie Poster. All kinds of sites will let you download these fonts. Go ahead and copy them, install them on your system, and then follow along with this movie. All right, here's that final version of the Indiana Jones text. And here are the fonts that you need to have available to you, Fedora and Movie Poster, both of which can be downloaded for free at shyfoundry.com. All right, we're going to be creating this effect from scratch. So go ahead and select the top three layers in the Layers panel and press the backspace key or the delete key on a Mac to get rid of them. Then turn on that top text layer and go up to the Window menu and choose the Character command in order to bring up the Character panel. Notice that this text is set in SF Fedora. SF stands for Shy Foundry, by the way. And the type size is currently 40 points. And the reason that some characters are bigger than others is that the D and the T are capital letters, and these other letters are lowercase and automatically set in small caps. All right, we're going to make a couple of changes. First, I'm going to change this vertical scale value to 130%. And then I'm going to change the tracking value to -20. And press the Enter key or the Return key on a Mac in order to apply that change. All right, that's enough formatting for now. Now I'm going to select the Type tool, which you can get by pressing the T key. Then go up to the Options bar and click on the Warp icon to bring up the Warp Text dialog box. We'll change the style to Arch, which is going to bend the text way too far, so we'll take the bend value down to +8. And then we need to add some horizontal distortion so that the characters appear to be coming toward us on the left-hand side. And we'll do that by changing that value to -35%. Then click OK in order to apply that change. Now we need to go ahead and rotate these characters a little bit. So go up to the Edit menu and choose Free Transform, or you can press Control-T or Command-T on the Mac. And I came up with a rotate value of -12.25 degrees. Then I'll press the Enter key to accept that change. I'm going to also turn on that link icon between the width and height values and change either of those values to 115%. And then press the Enter key or the Return key on the Mac in order to accept that modification. All right, I wasn't very happy with the way that the initial caps look, so I'm going to select the T. Notice you get some pretty rough feedback when you select these letters, but I have managed to select that T successfully. I'm going to bring up my Character panel once again. And I'm going to reduce that vertical scale value back to 100% and take the type size up to 60 points. And then I'm going to increase my baseline shift value to 4 points. Next, select the D, and Photoshop may automatically assign your last formatting attribute, in my case, baseline shift, which is just fine. So we want a baseline shift of 4 points. We want to reset the vertical scale value to 100% and then take the type size up to 60 points like so. And then press the Enter key on your numerical keypad in order to accept that change. All right, I'm going to hide the panel. And notice I have this additional Deke's Techniques layer. Go ahead and turn it on. You'll see it's that same layer set in blue, just so that you have an idea of where to position the text. I'm going to switch back to my rectangular marquee tool, and I'm going to press the Control key or the Command key on the Mac and drag my white text into alignment with the blue text like so. If you need to nudge the text, you can press Control or Command on the Mac along with an arrow key. Once you get that text in place, go ahead and turn off the blue layer. Now we need to make a couple of additional modifications to some individual letters, which means we need to convert this text into a shape layer. I don't want to lose the original editable type, so I'll press Control-J or Command-J on the Mac to create a copy of it, then turn off the original, then right-click inside an empty portion of that layer and choose Convert to Shape. Now then, we need to make a couple of modifications to those initial caps once again. Notice they don't appear to be at the proper angle. So grab the black arrow tool, which Photoshop calls the Path Selection tool, and then click on the T for starters in order to select it. Press Control-T or Command-T on the Mac to invoke Free Transform and change the rotate value to -4 degrees. Press the Enter key in order to accept that change, and then press the left arrow key a couple of times to nudge that T to the left. Now let's rotate the D as well. Click on it, press Control-T, Command-T on the Mac to invoke Free Transform, change the rotate value in the options bar to -4 degrees, and press the Enter key in order to accept that change. All right, Now we need to apply a couple of layer effects. So I'm going to click on my vector mask thumbnail there in the layers panel in order to hide the path outlines. Then click on the FX icon at the bottom of the panel, choose the drop shadow command, and assuming default settings, you want to take the opacity value up to 100%, change the distance value to 30 pixels and the size value to 0 pixels. Then click on stroke. Your position should be outside by default. The color should be black. Those are exactly what you want. But increase the size value to 5 pixels and click OK. All right, now here's the most important part. We need to apply a gradient to those letters. Normally, you would do that by dropping down to the FX icon and choosing gradient overlay. And you could add a linear gradient to the text, change its angle, everything be great. The problem is, in our case, we need the gradient to fan out as the letters grow when they approach the left-hand side of the image. That means we need to be able to warp the gradient, so we're going to have to create it as an independent layer. So press the Alt key or the Option key on a Mac and click the black-white icon at the bottom of the Layers panel and choose the Gradient command. Because you have Alt or Option down, you get the new layer dialog box. Let's go ahead and call this guy Indiana and click OK. Now, inside the Gradient Fill dialog box, I want you to click the down-pointing arrowhead, then click the right-pointing arrowhead if you have access to the exercise files, and choose the Load Gradients command. Then find the folder for this movie, and you'll see that it contains a file called adventuregrads.grd. Go ahead and load it on up. It contains all the gradients that are used in this file. We'll be working with the final one, which is called Indiana. Go ahead and click on it to select it. To give you an idea of what's going on, I'll click on the gradient bar. That brings up the Gradient Editor dialog box. Notice that we've got this shade of red here that's set at a location of 15%. We have a yellow that's set at a location of 50%. And then white set at a location of 85%. So hopefully that'll help you create that gradient if you don't have access to this file. All right, I'm going to cancel out of there. And we need to change the angle value to -90 degrees like so, then click OK. All right, now I need to warp and scale this gradient, but I can't directly transform a gradient layer. So I'll go up to the Layers panel flyout menu, click on it, and choose Convert to Smart Object. Now, let's enter the free transform mode once again by pressing Control-T or Command-T on the Mac. And we want to be able to see what we're doing, so let's reduce the opacity value to 50% like so. And here are some changes I came up with. I changed the horizontal scale value to 25%, and I changed the rotate value to -12 degrees. Then I went ahead and clicked on this warp icon over on the far right side of the options bar, changed the warp setting from custom to arch, and reduce the bend value to 35%, and then change the horizontal distortion value, that H value there, to -40%. And you can see that now my gradient isn't necessarily wide enough, so I'm going to click on the warp icon to switch back to the free transform mode, and I'm going to increase my width value to 110%. And then press the Enter key a couple of times, the Return key a couple of times on the Mac in order to accept that change. Now press the M key to switch back to the rectangular marquee tool, and Control or Command drag that gradient downwards so it completely covers up the text, like so. All right, let's press the 0 key in order to increase the opacity of the gradient to 100%, and then press the Alt or Option key on the Mac and click this horizontal line between the Indiana layer and the layer below it in order to clip the gradient inside of the text. And that is the near final effect, folks. There is just one little problem with it. I'll tell you what that problem is and how we're going to solve it when I say goodbye.